This is All of It on WNYC. I'm Allison Stewart. A new documentary takes viewers back to 1960s Memphis, where a black couple owned a modest motel called Lorraine. It was a safe haven during segregation. High-profile guests such as Louis Armstrong, Jackie Robinson, Marvin Gaye, and Aretha Franklin would go to Lorraine to stay, and of course for the catfish. Most people know the Lorraine as the place where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was fatally shot by James Earl Ray on the second-floor balcony. The horrific event went on to shape the trajectory of American history and the reputation of the Lorraine Motel. However, through archival footage and interviews, this film introduces us to the motel at the height of its glory, spotlights its beloved owners, the Baileys, and how this humble little inn became a gathering spot and a cultural oasis for the Black community. The film is titled Lorraine. It had its world premiere at the Tribeca Festival on Friday night and has one more showing this Saturday, June 13th at Village East by the Angelica at 11 a.m. Joining us now to discuss is writer and executive producer Alvin Hall. Alvin, welcome to All of It.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here.
So many people know the Lorraine because of the site of the tragedy. It's now a civil rights museum. How does this film strive to enlighten viewers about the significance of the motel?
The motel, like a person, has a past, a present, and the future. And so the movie seeks to inform people about what that past was like. Who founded the motel? How did they go about doing it? What was the heyday of the motel? And then there's that tragic event. What happened after that event? And how did the people of Memphis save it so that today it is the National Civil Rights Museum? So the film seeks to provide that narrative so that people will see the place in human terms. And we don't just talk about the building. We bring in people who actually lived the experience of going there. And that makes it more human.
Let's talk about the owners, the Baileys. Who were they?
Walter and Lorraine Bailey were a couple who lived in Memphis, and they started out early in their marriage by buying a rooming house that was near where the train station came in, and they would keep 2 rooms available for the Pullman porters. And I think that's an important indication because they weren't just about making money. They were also about providing a service to the African American community that would help make their lives better. That building was so successful that eventually they bought another building over on Mulberry Street, and that eventually became the Lorraine Motel. And again, they were very much visionary people, and it was a partnership, always a partnership. They worked together to realize their dreams.
I was going to ask you to describe Mrs. Bailey for us.
Mrs. Bailey, as Deanie Parker says in the show, she was a small lady, and she always was dressed very nicely. She was about 4'9". She wore a sweater and a skirt, and she would be busy. She actually operated the hotel. Mr. Bailey, who was a short guy, always busy, Deanie Parker remembers him wearing black trousers and a white shirt. He always had a side job. And his side job the entire time was at the Holiday Inn, where he managed the bellhops and the porters, the service department of Holiday Inn in Memphis, Tennessee.
And you said they wanted to serve the community. Would you describe what the Pullman porters were about for people who don't understand that?
The Pullman porters worked on the trains across America, and they were really the service providers for the passengers on the plane. They would take their luggage, they would serve them food, they would make the food. And this, for the Black community, the Pullman porters were a glamorous job because you could take your families on trips. But also, they were key players in distributing communications about what was happening up north back to the south. So you had all of these newspapers, which we talk about in the documentary, and those newspapers, including the Chicago Defenders, were writing about the Great Migration and the opportunities available up north, and the Pullman porters were taking those newspapers back to the south. And one of the things they also helped to distribute was the Negro Motorist Green Book, which was created by Victor Hugo Green here in New York City.
We are talking about a new documentary premiering at Tribeca, discussing the history of the Memphis Motel, known as a site where MLK Jr. was assassinated, but its legacy as a Black-owned safe haven during segregation, its before and its after. It's called the Lorraine. Writer and executive producer Alvin Hall is here to discuss. How would you describe the Bailey's vision for the motel?
The vision was, despite segregation and the limitations that it placed on them, they wanted to provide first-class service to not only the Black community of Memphis, but everybody coming through that area. People forget that Memphis was key to the Chitlin Circuit, a series of one-night stands that artists, singers played as they went around. So when people came there, they would want to have a comfortable, safe place to stay, and the Baileys were keenly focused on that.
As you started to do more research about the Bailey family and about the hotel, what surprised you the most during your research?
What surprised me was, I think that no documentary had ever been done about them.
That's interesting.
And I simply asked that question. Has a documentary ever been done about the Lorraine Motel and the Baileys? Yeah. And I heard, no, it never been done. And so I started the process by reaching out to Carol Lorraine Bailey, who is a granddaughter of Walter and Lorraine, to find out that their daughter was still alive and living with her daughter. So that started out the journey, and it was an amazing experience. Working with Sam Pollard, providing him with this information, and watching and listening how he would talk it through and find the storyline. Mm-hmm. And he saw their memories, both the daughter's and the granddaughter's memories of the Baileys, so key to this film. And it's some of the most heartwarming parts of the film.
How did you hook up with Sam Pollard, who directed it?
So I had in 2019 actually done a podcast for the BBC about the Green Book. And then after that, in mid-20s, I had done another podcast called Driving the Green Book. Mm-hmm. And if people listen to that podcast, it's available online, you'll see that the last episode is on the Lorraine Motel. I knew there was something there from those interviews with Carol and Bailey, as well as Nicole Trent, Dr. Nicole Trent at the museum. I knew there was something there. And so I met Joe Wemple. Joe Wemple introduced me to Dan Braun. I pitched it. And then we got a deal. Dan Braun said, I'm interested in this. Then the three of us went to a showing of one of Sam Pollard's films. This film was on Max Roach. And we asked him, we have this film idea. Would you be interested in working with it? And he said, yes. That was it.
That's amazing. You should always ask.
You always ask.
Always ask.
That's what I do.
We're talking about the film The Lorraine. It's at the Tribeca Festival. I'm speaking with its writer and executive producer, Alvin Hall. I want to go back to their daughter and their granddaughter.
Yes.
Were they willing to talk to you, or did they have questions about what you wanted to do?
They had questions.
Yeah.
I suspect, although no one had said it to me at all, that there had been other attempts to do maybe short documentaries or some coverage of the family. And I think it had perhaps not gone as they had hoped. And so part of my job was to win their confidence and show them that I was able to do this, and that Sam and the team and all of us were on their side to capture the story of their parents as they knew their parents, right? The truth about their parents. So it turns out that the interview that we did that day with all of us sitting around was one of the longest interviews they had ever given about their parents and grandparents. It was so touching. Yeah. And during the breaks, the daughter, Carolyn, and I would sit back in a storeroom of the pharmacy shop that her husband had owned. And we would just talk, and we developed this really great bond really great bond. And she was so looking forward to us coming back because we were going to do a pickup interview with her and ask a few more questions. And unfortunately, she died before we got back.
Where'd the name the Lorraine come from?
Their favorite song, Walter and Lorraine Bailey's, was Nat King Cole's Sweet Lorraine. And so they named it after that song because her name was Lorraine. Mm-hmm. And they saw that connection to the Lorraine.
How is that a fitting title for this establishment?
I think given that time when Nat King Cole was on television, civil rights were emerging, and that song, if you listen to the lyrics, it's about falling in love and being in love. And I think they wanted to emphasize that this place was going to be a safe haven, a place of love. And they had a honeymoon suite in this hotel. So when I talked to their granddaughter, she said she can remember going to that suite and jumping up and down on the bed, and that people love that. And there's a great scene in the movie that is beautifully captured by Sam with Eddie Floyd talking about he loved staying in the honeymoon suite, but he never stayed there with no honey, as he said.
We're going to hear a clip from the film The Lorraine from Mary Ellen Norwood Ford. Tell us who she is.
She was the maid who worked at the hotel from 1965 to 1969.
Let's take a listen.
When I moved to Memphis and I was looking for a job and got on the bus and I rode downtown, and that was the first bus stop I came to. I just looked up and saw it and said, Lorraine Motel, that sounds good. I asked him if he was hiring. He gave me the application, I filled it out, went to work the next day. I started as a maid, cleaning rooms.
All right, how many rooms did she have to clean?
Oh, probably in those days about 16 rooms, maybe a little bit more because they had done the addition by that time. So it had been 32 rooms.
So how did the hotel end up expanding? The motel ended up expanding almost to a hotel-ish kind of thing.
It expanded because of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Walter Bailey was actually ambivalent about the passing of this act because during segregation, black people had to stay there. But with the opening up of other forms of accommodation, he wondered if black people would still continue to patronize him. Therefore, he decided to upgrade the hotel. And his motto was the Holiday Inns, where he worked in the service department, and he expanded it. He spent around $2.5 million today. It was $240,000 at the time, and he added 32 rooms with carpeting, televisions, private bathrooms, and all of that.
And AC.
Yep, and AC. Yep.
That was a big expense for him, though.
Yes, it was a big expense, and one of the mysteries I have yet to be able to solve is where did he get the money? There was one black-owned bank in Memphis, the Tri-State Bank, and Jesse Turner Sr. was president of that bank. We interview his son in the documentary. And I've always wanted to know, did he get a loan for that or did they save up the money? They were quite frugal and very responsible with money. So I would not be surprised that they had saved that money.
What does the film reveal about black entrepreneurship during segregation?
It really reveals that black people who did not have access to the American dream created a parallel dream of their own. And even in the space where they did not have the same financial access to financial capital, they did not have the same freedom of movement, they were resilient, always forward-looking, and thinking not what was good for each of them, but what was good for the broader community. That's what comes out throughout this entire story. Even the saving of the Lorraine Motel is about the community, the black community of Memphis, seeing the importance of this place in the future and knowing that it had to be saved.
I'm speaking with executive producer and writer Alvin Hall. We're discussing the film The Lorraine. It's part of the Tribeca Film Festival. A lot of people talked about joyful moments.
Yes.
At the Lorraine. Can you explain a few for us?
Oh, the joyful moments were often around the pool. As Kobe Smith said, the swimming pool at the Lorraine was the oasis of the Black community. But also down the street was Stax Records. And when artists there were performing or in the recording studio and they needed to take a break, whether it was Isaac Hayes, Carla Thomas, Otis Redding, they would come to the pool at the Lorraine and they would sit there and they would do riffs and write songs at the Lorraine. Also, the food was good. So people would come there to have the food and share lots of different types of camaraderie at the place. The place was full of joy because Walter and Lorraine Bailey had open hearts. They really wanted the community to thrive and, as he said, have a first-class experience when they come to the Lorraine. And clearly, if you look at the demand for that place by the musicians and thinkers and athletes, including the Harlem Globetrotters and Jackie Robinson, all of them came to the Lorraine because it was a place of inspiration and a place of happiness.
In the 60s and 70s, it went through hard times
Yes.
immediately following MLK's assassination. What do people want to do about the Lorraine? Did they want it to be torn down? Did they want it to become a place of memory? What were the initial responses?
It was all over the place.
Yeah.
You had some people who wanted to tear it down and turn it into a parking lot, who wanted to build apartments there that would be named perhaps after King. You had a whole group of people who wanted to save it. So a local group of people led by Chuck Scruggs, who was a local television personality, but also a manager at DIA, WDIA, the major radio station there, D'Army Bailey. These guys came together and they started the Save the Lorraine campaign. And they had a vision that they wanted this place to be a place of inspiration. D'Army Bailey's wife, the wonderful woman, she talks about the fact that when they would drive up, that when they were dating, D'Army would drive up and say, Adrian, we can't let them tear this place down. As she said, it was personal. Jesse Turner Jr. said it, I think, in the best way I've ever heard. He said, you had 5 people from the community who were trusted, who believed in the vision of creating a space, not just of memory, but of inspiration for the future.
But not everybody agreed with them.
Oh, no, not even the King family agreed with
Yeah.
them. Yeah, the King family, for them, it was a morbid experience because this was the place he was killed. So they didn't want this. But gradually they came around, right? I think that's what has happened over a period of time. A lot of the opposition to it, when they saw the sincerity of the people and how strategic and determination the Memphis Black community was in wanting to save this place, I think that really was a turning point.
When you visit the Civil Rights Museum, I went. It's
Yes.
a moving experience, I find. How did you experience it?
I first experienced it at night. I drove up from Jackson, Mississippi, when I was doing the very first podcast, and we arrived in the evening. We said, let's go see it. And we walked up to it at night, and I was surprised at how small it was because it looked huge in my imagination.
Yeah.
And you could feel something there. And I'm not one of those people who thinks I'm in touch with that sort of thing, but it deeply moved me. And then when we went back to record there and we followed the exhibition, and you end at the room he stayed in, and then you hear Mahalia Jackson singing Precious Lord, Take My Hand. You just stop and you think. And you can't help but be penetrated, almost like a wash going through you of all the emotions and all the memories and all the power of that moment, of that place.
How do you think documentaries like this, like the Lorraine, will help inspire the next generation?
I think that a lot of people didn't know the full story of the Lorraine. For them, it was that one moment. They will see that, like many places, that this place had a trajectory, a life that was vital, fun, full of opportunity. and a place where people came together to share memories, the things they love, and to form community. That place was a community where songs were written, political activism started. Black and white people could stay there together for the first time, but it was a place where people have such vivid memories and such strong memories because the place provided them with joy.
The Lorraine has one more showing this Saturday, June 13th at Village East by Angelica at 11 a.m. as part of the Tribeca Festival. I've been speaking with writer and executive producer Alvin Hall. Thank you for joining us in studio.
You're most welcome.